Welcome to the Pachehra Talks. My name is Arun. I'm Solutions Architect, MCT, currently working with Novin Tech, which is one of the best organizations to work with and also received many Great Place to Work awards. And in today's video, we are going to explore web application firewall. In the previous few chapters, we have covered a lot of things in security specific series that we are working upon. And in the previous video, it was application gateway. So today we are going to talk about web application firewall, which is most important topic. And this firewall we can have for both for application gateway and for the front door. Okay, but in our scenario, we are going to talk about application firewall, application gateway WAF, which is regional, not the front door WAF, which is global. There are not a much difference, but there are some differences. That's the reason I'm talking it like separately. And how and why, if that is your question, I could show you. Now our Azure is up and running. It is got enabled. So thank you, Microsoft. Now, if I go here and click on policies, web application firewall policies, which are going to attached with the resource like application gateway or front door, when you create, you have to choose policy for either front door or application gateway. So you can easily understand there is a slight difference because when you create policy, you cannot create policy, you cannot apply same policy on front door and application gateway. So that's the reason I mentioned here uh, application uh, fire application gateway firewall and front door. So this point is clear. Very nice. So for the people who are joining first time and not sure what exactly the WAF is, so it's a brief introduction on the WAF. WAF, I'm calling it WAF, but that's simply web application firewall. That's what WAF is, WAF. And this safeguards your web applications, as the name says, web against common exploits and the vulnerabilities. That's what the firewall does, right? So this is for the application layer, layer 7. So that's the reason it's web application firewall. That's how they name it. It's pretty interesting and easy to understand and keep it in the mind, not like, you know, using some uh, name which has no relevance. Anyways, so our web applications become more frequent target if you are wondering why, because that's how people access over HTTPS or HTTP or layer 7. So it's exposed to the internet. So that's the reason they get more frequent targets for malicious attacks, and these attacks often exploit the well-known vulnerabilities such as SQL injection and cross-site scripting. Yeah, and you must have heard many times, a lot of times, it's a zero-day exploit. This is vulnerability. So, if hackers or attackers find out about those vulnerabilities first, they start exploiting it. SQL injection is something which is very critical and crucial. A lot of bad things happen by this kind of attack, and a lot of brands already lost their brand value. A lot of companies got bankrupted because this happened. Anyways, our point is not to find out who, but to find out web application firewall. So attacks like these, it will help us on layer 7, help us protect the web application. Okay, now the point is how, because this web application firewall, this firewall is based on this, which is CRS, core rule set, from the OWASP. If you're wondering what is OWASP, it is Open Web App Security Project. Yes, this is an international non-profit organization which is dedicated to improve the security of softwares, and they do that all the time, like figuring it out, the attacks which are most critical and used in current days. So this provides unbiased, practical, cost-effective information about computer and internet applications, and also release top 10 OWASP vulnerabilities. And as per those, the OWASP rule set gets prepared. So that's how it takes care or saves us from these kind of attacks, because they have some kind of rules that are attached to the web application firewall, which is attached to the application gateway. So any traffic coming here, for example, all right, so let's suppose there is someone who is trying to access, it could be a bad thing or could be a good thing, through application gateway, where we have attached the WAF policies, and these policies have OWASP rules. So one of those rule matches this request, then it will deny the request, and you are safe from those kind of issues. Now, there are multiple ways it can help us doing this. It could have, there are like two ways: detection and prevention. There are two modes on which we can run this: detection and prevention. As the name says, that's what they do. Detection will only detect and log all the information. Prevention will simply block it. So why we need detection? Because we don't want anything to detect, but we want to prevent it. Well, this detection will help us to streamline our policies, because we don't want any false positives, right? So we don't want even our production applications getting hurt or hampered or blocked because of we are preventing everything. So it's it's always better, nice or better to put it on detection mode, learn your environment, learn everything, and then start preventing. So yeah, we have created web policy and hooked it up with the application gateway. Now things are coming from here will be blocked or allowed as per the rules. All right. So this WAF has nothing but the policies that takes care of all the features of the WAF. And you can create multiple policies, and they can be associated with application gateway to listeners, then path-based routing. So all these things, you can attach the policies to all these three options that we have here. Okay. So if you, all right, let's ask a question here. If we can have this policy attached to app gateway, listener, or path-based routing, what and how exactly it is helping us? Just think and answer me on the comment if you can relate it with the things that we have studied till now. If not, just hear it out. This way, you can have a separate policies for each site behind your application gateway if needed. Why? Because if you remember, application gateway has a lot of features. One of them was multi-site, right? So you can have policies applied to app gateway, a different policy on the listeners, and a different policy on the path-based routing, and you can create multiple policies. All right. So uh, let me show you this on the portal. All right, let's go to the Azure portal. We are coming here. Now, see policies. So when you, these are the policies that I have created. And here you can see, because we chose application gateway at the beginning when we create policies, there is nothing. So, all right, you see here, policy for global application gateway. So I selected this resource group, policy name, location. And here is the policy mode, prevention and detection that I was talking about. And if you go to manage rule, here are the rules that you need to manage. You need to select all those rules. You can select only one. If I try to do it, it will deny me. Okay. Anyways, then we have policy settings where we can select a lot of other information. Then we have custom rules, and where we are associating this policy to, and review and create. Once it is created, it will become like this, and you have all that information right here. Now, there was one more thing I just wanted to show you. Uh, Application gateway. Why? Because there are only two versions of WebSQ in the application gateway. If you try to create an application gateway, all right, and if you go to this queue tier, Standard is deprecated, WAF is deprecated. Now only V2 and WAF V2 is available for us. All right. And if I go back to policies, oh, the thing I just wanted to show you is where we can attach these policies. For here application gateway, this is attached to the listener. You see, add association, you can attach it to the application gateway, HTTP listener, and route path. Okay. Now, if I okay, that's fine. We'll talk about the other stuff later on. So let's see some important aspects of the Azure web application firewall that we connect to the application gateway. All right, so what are these? The very first thing, this protect your web application from web vulnerabilities and attacks without modification of your backend code. Because at the back end, what is running? At the back end, there is an application running. For example, look at this. If this guy is accessing something, it will go to a gateway and it will distribute the traffic like this. Now we want to secure the application which is running on these applications. So we are not modifying any code. We are not putting anything here in the application code, but we are applying web policies on the application which is distributed or rather different from this one, right? So it is more like a distributed system, but not exactly that. But you can understand this is not running here. It is a different resource. It is a different resource, and these are sending the traffic on the VM1, VM2, right? All right. So no backend code modification when you're gonna use WAF on application gateway for your applications running on the backend pool. The second thing is this protect web application, multiple web application at the same time. We talked about it. So an instance of application gateway can host up to 40 website. Yes, it can host up to 40 website, not more than that. Usually we don't go like this, but yes, if you like, you can. All right, so the application firewall V2 comes with a pre-configured and platform managed rule set that offers protection from many different types of attacks. And these attacks include, of course, SQL and cross-site encryptions and many more. Okay, so it we have managed rule, which we talked about WAF. It's a rule set, OWASP. These are the managed rule, managed by Microsoft. It is there already. You need not to write everything from the scratch. So it is already there. However, if you'd like to change, if you like to add some rules, you can do that, which is called custom rule. As the name says, you're going to customize your rule. So custom rules allow you to create your own rules that are evaluated for each request that passes through WAF, because these rules are also in the WAF. So custom rules contain the same kind of thing like we have in any kind of rule for NSG or any other firewall rule, like the rule name, rule priority, or array of matching conditions. I'll show you that as well. So if these conditions are met and action is taken, because it's custom, so of course just like custom route, this one is also take the priority. And if this get triggers and allow or block action is taken, so no further custom or managed rules are evaluated. It's done. For example, if you have put the IP address array as an IP match, and there is some IP address that you put there, if it matches, it will block and allow as per the rule configuration. But it's not that simple. It can also support the compounding logic to make more advanced rules that address your security needs. And sometimes WEF might block a request that you want to allow for your application. So you want to have an exclusion list. And if you're wondering why, why would like to exclude, we want everything to go through the WEF. The first answer is because you don't want it to be blocked. Maybe your WEF is blocking. But why a WEF will block an authentic request? It's because the logics. For example, Active Directory inserts tokens that are used for authentication. When used in a request header, these tokens can contain special characters that might trigger a false positive detection from the WAF rules. By adding the header to an exclusion list, you can configure WAF to ignore the header, but WAF still evaluates the rest of the request, right? All right. So exclusion list. Now you can configure configure exclusions to apply when a specific ref rules are evaluated, because to apply globally to the evolution of all the web rules, exclusion rules apply to your whole web application. Okay. So there is no limit to the number of policies you can create. When you create a policy, it must be associated with one of these things. Okay. So protect your web application from malicious bots. Yes, there is something called bot protections with the IP reputation rule set. So roughly 20% of all internet traffic comes from the bad bots. They do things like scraping, scanning, and looking for vulnerabilities in your web application. When these bots are stopped at the web, they can't attack. Of course, they can't attack you because it has already been blocked. They also can't use up your resource and services such as backends and other underlying infrastructure, where it's get blocked right here if you enable that. And it is now comes with the WAF v2. It's a wonderful feature that you should leverage for the security. So you can enable a managed bot protection rule set for your WAF to block or log requests from known malicious IP addresses. Now, the IP addresses are sourced from where? Because I use the word known. If you were watching this series, you know it is coming from Microsoft Threat Intelligence feed. We talked about it in the previous video. So, Intelligence Security Graph powers Microsoft Threat Intelligence, and it is used by multiple services, including MS Defender for Cloud. Right? So, one data or interesting data utilized by all the services. All right, good. So, bot protection. And now DDoS. Now you must be wondering why DDoS, because DDoS is a separate service that we buy either through network or IP. Like, so why DDoS coming here? Let me tell you something really interesting, and you must be aware if you are architecting any Azure infrastructure from security perspective, because Azure WAF has several defense mechanisms that can help you to prevent DDoS attacks as well. And it is must. If you enable only DDoS and you're not applying WAF for the L7 exposed, you're still vulnerable. All right, how? Let me explain you. The DDoS attacks can target at both network layer L3, L4 or application layer as well. Yes. So Azure DDoS protects customer against large network layer volumetric attacks. So Azure DDoS only saves or protects the network layer L3 and L4. And Azure WAF operating at layer 7 protects web application against L7 DDoS attacks such as HTTP floods. So these defenses can prevent attackers from reaching your application and affect your application's availability and performance. So that's how it will help us for DDoS protection. Now, this new WAF engine, the application web firewall WAF engine, is the component that inspects traffic and determines whether a request includes a signature that represents a potential attack and takes appropriate action depending on the configuration. WAF engine I'm talking about here. Why I'm talking about here? Because next generation of WAF engine has so many improvements. For example, it has the new engine released with CRS 3.2. What is CRS? Core Rule Set 3.2. We'll show you here as well. If you go to Manage Rule 3.2, okay. If you try to assign, you'll find out all the rules here. 3.2, okay. And this WAF engine is significantly improve the performance of and WAF latency. And it also has higher request per second RPS, like increased scale, using the same compute power and with the ability to process larger request size in this new WAF engine. And it has better protection because new redesigned engine with efficient regex processing offers better protection against regex denial of service attacks while maintaining a consistent latency experience. And of course, it has a richer feature set. New features and future enhancements are available only through the new engine. All right, so we have seen a lot of things I'll show you here. So this is the managed rules that we talked about. You click on assign. These are or the rule sets which are managed by Microsoft. They can take care of it. You can select any of these and apply for the use. And these are the exclusion that we are talking about. If you want to exclude something, when we gave the example of Azure AD tokens, right? You can add here. You also have your custom rules that we talked about at the beginning. We gave the example of IP address, right? IP address match type does contain, does not contain. So it will work like this, but it can also have advanced conditions. You can also utilize these advanced conditions, as you can see. Now, we also have rate limit. This is very interesting feature. This rate limit will help us in the DDoS protection as well. Okay. All right. So what all we talked about, yeah, that's all about it, right? Okay. Now we need to talk about sensitive data. All right. So this log scrubbing rules, because normally when a WAF rule is triggered, the WAF logs the details of the request in clear text. If the portion of the request triggering the WAF rule contains sensitive data such as customer password or IP address, that sensitive data is viewable by anyone with access to the WAF logs. So to protect customer data, you can set up log scrubbing. This log scrubbing. Log scrubbing rules targeting this sensitive data for protection because it will scrub it out. So what all we can scrub it out through this? Well, IP addresses. All right, and we have you can see IP address, header name, cookie name, request org name, which is like parameters or query strings. Then we have post org names, which is more like names of arguments provided in the body of a request. So, and JSON object, like keys within JSON object sent in the request body. So you can have these things scrubbed in the logs. So it is there now. It is a wonderful feature. And the rate limiting that we were talking about, I showed you in the custom rule. Rate limit. So rate limiting for WAF on app gateway allows you to detect and block abnormally high levels of traffic destined for your application. By using rate limiting on app gateway WAF v2, you can mitigate many types of DDoS attacks, protect against clients that have accidentally been misconfigured to send large volumes of requests in a short time period, or control traffic rates to your site from specific geographies. Yes, if you go to, I don't think I have here. All right, that's fine. If I go to policy settings, because we have already talked about everything, policy settings has few other settings like request body inspection, and we can select the maximum request body limit. These are some other settings that you can select here. So that's how we have to create the policy. And when we create it, we have to select for whom we are creating it. For example, policy name, policy state, policy for WAF and app gateway. And once it is created, it will show under its web policy WAF. And from here, we can simply hook it up with or associate with any of these. You cannot apply same policy. For example, let me remove this association. I have this policy, pol02, and this is associated with this application gateway, my gateway WAF. All right. If I come here and try to, it is still removing. Okay. Let me refresh. All right. If I try to connect with this application gateway, which already has this policy applied. First of all, it was not showing me. Otherwise, it usually show it. See, it gives an error. If I add it, it will get added here and will be removed from the policy 02. So these are some few things that you should be aware of. You can create multiple policies and apply accordingly though. Uh, but you can only apply one here. But we have other stuff like listener and route path, so you can apply there as well. All right, so it's gone from here. See, that's what I was talking about. So that's how it works. So WAF is nothing but these policies and all these rules and regulations that you work with and you apply it on your application gateway. With that, let me close this video. I hope it was informative and thank you for watching. You guys have a wonderful day. Bye bye.